Gigantic enemy crab, real-time weapon switching, hit its weak point for massive damage. Okay, I got all the memes out of the way. Did I miss anything? Genji Days of the Blade is maybe more remembered for being a promoted PS3 launch title than a sequel to the game on the PS2. I'll be honest, outside of the cover, I don't think I ever saw anything from Genji 1, and at this point I would go back out of morbid curiosity over just how better that game is to this. Genji, as I'm going to call it from now on, is a real odd one, but the end result is not exactly flattering. Credit where credit is due, there are times where this game looks great. Notably, the CGI cutscenes are stunning. Like, look at the texturing of skin that happens. And once you're in engine, the game still looks quite nice. You won't find any brown and bloom here. Genji is frequently showing off vibrant hues and some notably flashy menu UI. What's curious is that the game sometimes looks dire. Occasionally, the in-engine cutscenes look worse than the gameplay. Maybe it's the lack of movement and action going on, but I swear there are times where the texture mapping on clothing and armaments during cutscenes specifically takes a fucking nosedive. The more I looked at them, the more I realized the in-engine cutscenes perform worse. They are choppy and stuttery in ways that the normal gameplay isn't. It ends up being this game that sometimes looks awesome and sometimes looks awful. It runs fine. The frame rate likely isn't pushing 30, but outside of some uniquely hectic segments, it stays stable for the first 2/3 of the game. Really, the biggest issue with the frame rate is that the menu is a buttery smooth 60. You'll get used to the way the game looks and plays, hit start, and then go, oh shit, that's right. I would almost prefer the menu not be like this because it puts a big old neon sign over how the game is not running at the same frame rate. But enough dilly-dallying about these next-gen assets. How does the game play, Mr. Idleism J? Well, for starters, Mr. Idleism J is my father, but it's got issues. This has got to be some of the least responsive hacking and slashing I've held in my hands. Punching in a sequence of attacks feels very poorly canned and lacks any sort of enemy lock-on or much in the way of redirecting yourself once you start a chain. And really, that's if there's a chain to begin with. Don't take a 3-hit combo for granted in this game. It's so sludgy, but you can mostly work around it. Each of your 4 characters, Dual Swords Mick Protagonist, No Combo Jones, Priestess of the Almost Interesting to Play, and Speed Demon Shackled by Animation Lock, have new weapons they will get access to throughout the game. Each of these have completely unique attack sequences and do a very good job in setting themselves apart from the other weapon choices. You will likely find a weapon or two that jive with you the most, whether that means you enjoy the way they play, or they at all feel playable compared to the other offerings. The combat is iffy, but you can work with it. The bigger problems are the camera and the encounters. The camera in Genji is fixed in a strange manner and usually at a strange angle. I don't understand what's going on here, but the camera is only ever capturing the action from one angle, is usually placed closer to the ground level with the shot slightly upwards, and frequently frames the action tightly. Are they trying to do their own China Warrior where it's like, look how big and beautiful and next gen our graphics are? Or was this an attempt to cover up the inability to get a moving camera in the game? Either way, it's a pain in my ass. You see this mini map up here? This guy is your best friend because without him, it's borderline impossible to figure out what's going on. There will frequently be enemies outside of the camera's range and no amount of movement can help you see them clearly. You have to be able to fight by mini-map direction on more than a couple occasions. And that's accounting for the fact that the camera will change its fixed position depending on what part of the level you are in, disorienting your ability to tell what is due north. The camera will often be pulled right up to your ass cheeks, making you feel like you can barely even see the range of the battlefield, wishing, hoping, pleading, and praying you had something that operated like Dynasty Warrior's camera. All of this is rough, but nothing beats how quickly the game just runs the fuck out of ideas. To start, the game is very awkwardly paced. I'm not sure how to describe it, but you catch yourself viewing your surroundings going, what am I doing here again? There is this lack of emphasis on signposting your story objectives that makes the game feel like you are doing unrelated tasks. And there's not a whole lot of time spent thinking about what your task at hand actually is because you are busy doing combat rooms. Oh my god, the combat rooms do not end. After a couple hours, you get to a segment called the Ichinotani Beach. This is a combat room with 3 little areas where the combat does not fucking stop. You will be beating up on fools for what feels like a goddamn hour here because that's all the game really has for you. After you delete what feels like the population of Alabama off the sandy beach of war, you are gifted the gigantic enemy crab fight. Not exactly the reward you want, but a reward you will gladly take because it means you can finally have this behind you. But it gets even worse afterwards. Your next zone is what I have dubbed the Ice Soup No Budget Dungeon Extravaganza. Your party of 4 have been trapped in the Netherworld and split up, meaning you will now go through Valky 64 levels of hallways and combat rooms, and it takes forever. You will lose your mind in these repeated textures and room layouts. It's actively maddening, and there isn't even anything like a secondary objective to distract you. It's all combat, all the time, and you better fucking love it. If there is anything that is going to stick in my brain long after this playthrough, it's how nakedly the game needed the Ice Soup No Budget Dungeon Extravaganza to pad out its runtime. Genji does not recover from this. The first third of the game is fine, honestly kinda good even, but everything from the Ice Soup No Budget Dungeon Extravaganza to the credits starts tumbling downstairs. If you thought those hallways and combat rooms were tedious and tasted like cardboard, well, I hope you warm up to that flavor because the game does not have anything else in the tank. The last couple levels feature extremely protracted experiences. Both the escapades on the ship-top sea battle and the exploration inside the enemy battleship are more interesting than the Ice Soup No Budget Dungeon Extravaganza, but they are more taxing and monotonous. I was seriously getting pushed to my breaking point. I was praying to God that the game was going to end soon because it just didn't have a single thing left to offer, but the experience kept going. And honestly, the experience only got worse somehow. Not only is the enemy battleship longer in yardage traversed, but the only way they have left to gussy up encounters is to add more enemies than before. This fucking tanks the performance. You start fighting in slow motion. Battles become less of an intricate swordplay between feudal warriors and more of an underwater routine the Olympic judges would score if they didn't fall asleep. It took serious effort and having MMA fights on my laptop to power through and actually beat this game. The more I mull on Genji Days of the Blade, the more I think bringing up China Warrior was apt. This game really wants to be big. It wants to show you how large it can be, how huge these characters are, how battles can take up the whole screen. And that's not good, especially in all the instances where battles take up none of the screen because it's out of the camera's view, but it is something. Much like how China Warrior is not a good belt scroller, but it has this ostentatious scale to it. Genji is not a good game, but it is trying to impress you with its big McLarge hugeness. But even with good games, charm can only take you so far, and Genji is not a good game. I kind of want to recommend it because people should experience the Ice Soup No Budget Dungeon Extravaganza, but getting past that and beating the game is way too much effort to put on a person. Genji is bad. It really seems like there could have been something going on here, but at the end, it was a 12 or so hour game that felt like it should have been 5. And that's just fucking rough.